It's Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me, my co-host, Phil Emery. How you doing, Phil?
I am doing much better than I was last week. I had a cold last week, so I am much better today.
That's right. You're sounding like you're 100%. Ready to
Yeah,
rock and roll?
a little phlegmy, but I think I can manage it.
Phlegmy. Flemmy Phil. I never used that one back when I was doing the alliteration for everyone's name before. Anyway.
Well, that's Scotch. It should help.
Yeah, you should be glad I never used Flemmy Phil. Okay. And for everyone else, please send your comments, questions, cold remedies to at Song Talk Radio on Facebook or Instagram, feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mention, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. Tonight, we're very happy to welcome teenage pop sensation Sydney. How are you doing, Sydney?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing pretty good, and thanks for joining us on the show. And before we get to Sydney's super catchy song, just a couple of things we want to alert our listeners to. This morning, while I was working, I usually have CBC Radio on in the background, and CBC The Current came on, and Matt Galloway was interviewing someone about learning about flow from a jazz player's brain, and they did like a scientific study, talking about flow, and as musicians, we all kind of intuitively know what that means when you get into the groove of performing a song, or you've practiced it enough where you get to the point where it's just, you're not thinking about it anymore, you're just doing it and you're just feeling your way through it, and that's what they refer to as flow. And they've actually done the research and the brain research to say that, well, yes, it takes a certain degree of expertise and lots of practice to be able to achieve that degree of flow. And also that, they actually compared like novice jazz musicians and veteran jazz musicians, and they found that, of course, the veteran ones sort of achieve the flow more consistently, more often, and more quickly, whereas the novice ones were a little bit hit and miss, right? Like sometimes they got it, sometimes they didn't, kind of thing, which of course we all know intuitively as well. And so it's an interesting little conversation.
There's actually a great book that is on our resources page at the website at songtalk.ca/resources. And I think it's still in print. It's a book called The Inner Game of Music. And it actually talks about the flow state and about how to get into the flow state and how to sort of get out of your own brain when you're performing. And, it's very much for classical musicians, but it's also regular musicians. And there's all these, one of the things that I picked up, which I thought worked really well, was if your hands are shaking, if you're nervous before a performance, the one thing you don't want to do is trying not to shake your hands. You don't want to try to stop shaking or trying to hold those feelings back, because what happens, that just amplifies them. So what you do is you actually kind of relax and you actually go into them. You just let your hands shake, and it actually goes away. It works really well. Yeah. So that's the inner game of music. So if you're out there, a fine read, especially if you're into music and performing as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it applies to even fields outside music. Like if you're writing, you're crafting words, you're writing a novel, you're writing poetry, whatever. They even talk about athletes, like tennis players who know all their little techniques about where exactly to put their elbow and how much spin to put on. But then when they get on the court, they don't think about all that stuff. They just flow into it.
The original book actually was called The Inner Game of Tennis. Then it was moved on to The Inner Game of Music, and it's by Timothy Galloway. And it is still available for $22.70 Canadian in paperback for those of you scoring at home.
Nice. That's on the Canadian Amazon.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Yeah, definitely check that one out. And you had a little thing to share, right, Phil?
Yes. Well, an interesting thing. As I was sick yesterday and sitting on my bed looking at YouTube as we do when we are sick, I came across Rick Beato's fine channel. Rick Beato, who's been in the music industry for a long time and has a great big brain and has a really great show that talks about all sorts of things. He was interviewing Sting, and he was kind of doing a song talk radio where he was going really deep into the songwriting process, or at least attempting to. So he was asking. So he was talking about declarative choruses with one line, like Roxanne, 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 those kinds of things. And I think I want to do a show about this. I don't know if we've done a show on this, but it's an interesting technique.
I feel like you've mentioned it before, and we never got around to it. But yeah,
we should, because it is a very useful technique, and it's not one that I've done very often myself. And so he wanted to talk to Sting and another music industry person who I did not recognize about this. And Sting just would not bite. He just said nothing pretty well.
Really?
And then he just sort of said about how much he liked the Beatles. And it was kind of, I was very disappointed because I think as a successful songwriter, you should share your knowledge with other songwriters and people who are coming up. And I thought it was a real lost opportunity because Sting is a fantastic songwriter who's done lots of stuff. And I think he has gained a lot of knowledge through the years, and it would be great to share that. But I don't know. Like, I would have assumed that most of those questions would have been pre-cleared with Sting's people.
Possibly, but I mean, like this podcast, YouTube is a little bit off the grid, so to speak, right? Like it's not it's not as official as being on a national radio syndicated thing or whatever. But now that you've dissed Sting, he's certainly never going to come here.
I want to get him on. I think he's got a big brain. Although someone actually, I mentioned this to a friend of mine, and he said, keep in mind that not everybody thinks about songwriting the way you guys do.
Yeah.
Because we talk about it once a week for the last 10 years pretty well.
Yeah.
So most people don't talk about songwriting in that kind of detail. So that might be he just doesn't think of it that way. But interesting.
Or maybe he just gets to that flow state like super, super fast and doesn't think about it at all and just does it, right?
Yeah, quite possible.
Because that is a thing for songwriting too. Like I've been trying to embrace my intuitions more lately instead of overthinking everything like I used to. So, still overthink things.
Yeah, thinking just gets in the way.
It can. Sometimes it can help. Sometimes it can hinder. It's like most things, right?
Yeah, that's true.
All right, and we had a really fun meetup this week on Zoom.
Yes.
Had people from all over the place, as tends to happen when you're on Zoom.
Yes, lots of people from the U.S., which is kind of fun. I think only one or two people from the TO. But some great stuff and a great way of networking and meeting other songwriters. And, it's a great way of meeting people outside your own neighborhood. Yeah. Because it's kind of hard to meet people across the country.
There was literally a collaboration by the end of the meetup. There was a collaboration happening in real time on the meetup.
Oh yes.
Paul was talking about a kid's song he wanted to write about jazz hands, and one other member, Amy, was just jotting down lyrics and shared them on the spot. It's like, here's an idea to contribute to that. Cool. And actually, I saw Paul yesterday, the day after the meetup. He said he already had a Zoom call with Amy, and they've already started working on this song. Like it's awesome. It's amazing. It's incredible. And hopefully they bring it back. I think they're going to bring it back to the live meetup in May and share it there. So
fantastic.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity.
Yes, when we do that live every other month, and then on Zoom every other month.
Yeah.
So May 2024 will be on live in Toronto.
Yep, in person.
And then June will be online again.
Exactly.
7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, best of both worlds.
Indeed.
Alrighty, okay, and now on to the main attraction. 16-year-old budding pop sensation Sydney is ready to introduce herself to the world with electric feel-good anthem Picture Perfect. Hailing from Toronto, Ontario, the artist is known for a unique sound that adeptly blends the soaring synths of Billboard Hot 100 chart toppers with Korean pop music, bridging the sonic gap between Taylor Swift and MAMAMOO. Welcome to Song Talk Radio, Sydney.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on the show. And let's get going here by taking a listen to Sydney's song. This is Picture Perfect.
How she's so picture perfect. She's a picture perfect, flawless, honest, front to the back. How's a girl like me supposed to be somebody like that? She's a picture perfect, work of art from her head to shoes. But a girl like her from this world, how she's so picture perfect. Is there a filter that I can wear outside? One that makes my insecurities run and hide. Is there some magic tool that can fix my faults? Something portable, downloadable, problem solved. But life don't work that way. Everyone ain't exactly as portrayed. We okay. She's a picture perfect, flawless, honest, front to the back. How's a girl like me supposed to be somebody like that? She's a picture perfect, work of art from her head to shoes. But a girl like her from this world, how she's so picture perfect. 'Cause ain't nobody is flawless, and there's nobody that lives up to those lines. Everybody's pretending. We're afraid to take off our own. How she's so picture perfect, work of art with mouth flaws and all. 'Cause a girl like me become complete with how she's so picture perfect. Another shopping spree, she's living the dream. Every outfit harder than the last on her feet. So wish I could indulge in the food she posts from bougie restaurants and yet still fit in them clothes. But life don't work that way. Everyone ain't exactly as portrayed. We okay. She's a picture perfect, flawless, honest, front to the back. How's a girl like me supposed to be somebody like that? She's a picture perfect, work of art from her head to shoes. But a girl like her from this world, how she's so picture perfect. 'Cause ain't nobody is flawless, and there's nobody that lives up to those lines. Everybody's pretending. We're afraid to take off our own. She's picture perfect, work of art with mouth flaws and all. 'Cause a girl like me, we come complete with how she's so picture perfect.
Cool.
Very
That's-
cool indeed.
That's super catchy.
Thank you.
Interesting. And of course, then there is no intro. You're right into the song right off at the top.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I wish I could say I wrote it. I more inspired it, but I have been working on songwriting, so it's been like really fun to learn about it.
So, did you work with someone on the song, or how did this thing come together?
So basically, I was like, I did an audition and I didn't think it went well, but I guess it did. And so a producer reached out, Adam H from like XOXO Entertainment. So I've been working with them, and we were on a Zoom meeting, and I kind of just like talked about life and stuff, and like a lot of it was like what I was seeing on social media. So that's pretty much how the song was, I guess, written. And like I more inspired this one, but we have worked on some other stuff that's not out yet that I have helped write now.
Oh, cool. Did you So did you come up with a melody, or did they come up with a melody and you worked with them, or how did the melody come up about?
I'm not entirely sure actually. I think like so I started doing some lessons with Don Wolf, who works with Adam, and he was there when we recorded. So pretty much what happened was I did a couple lessons with him. We figured out like the range of which I could like sing like comfortably, and then we tried a couple different like songs and melodies to see what would fit my voice the best. And then like a week ish later, they were like, "We have a demo for you." And yeah, it was a really cool like thing. And I have song written with them, but like not on this one. But they're the process is really cool.
Okay. So basically they like you guys talked about the song, the idea for the song, and they came back with a completed demo and then brought you back in the studio and you basically just copied their melody and their lyrics?
Yeah, for the most part. And then it was just like doing the harmonies and stuff that were there. But it was just really fun to learn about. And like, well, I have written with them now. So like that's been really fun as well. And it's just like a very big, like, or lots of learning when I'm there. And like, I've learned a lot from them since starting and like getting to where I am now.
That's great. I know there's probably lots of um, people who are new to the music world, and their ears picked up once you said you went to an audition. So how did you find this audition? Like, someone call you? Did you see the paper? What was?
I actually found the audition on Instagram, and it was just
Oh,
like I didn't know what it was, and I just did it. I asked my parents; they said sure because it was like free, and I was like okay, and yeah, and like it worked out, and I didn't think it would, and it did.
wow.
And what specifically was the audition for? They just wanted singers for a pop track kind of thing?
Yeah, it was just kind of like an audition to do a really big audition for like a bunch of people, and then it's like you just see if you're gonna get a call back, basically.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. It's
Because you've been singing a long time then, right? Since you were very young?
Yeah, I've been singing like pretty much my whole life and like lessons from like, well, actually, I don't know, but like music since like 6 years old, lessons since a little bit after that for singing.
Mhm.
It was like piano, guitar, and
wow.
yeah,
And you would sing mostly cover songs?
lots of cover songs. Yes, lots of musicals, cover songs. At the moment, I sing a lot of choir stuff as well.
That's always good. So was the audition? Was it on Zoom, or did you have to go somewhere? Or
It was all on Zoom actually. It was like during like COVID lockdown, so everything was online. I had nothing going on. I was like online school, so I was like, oh well, I'll do it.
yeah, because if it's online, there's very little risk. Um, in the music industry, there's lots of scams and lots of
Mm.
you know maybe not scams, but a lot of people who may not be quite what they appear to be. So it can always be a bit challenging, just answering an ad on Instagram. But it's so cool that that it worked out and it was a real thing.
Yeah, it was really crazy. I like asked my parents, they like, is it a real thing? I was like, I don't know. And yeah.
I guess yeah, the risk is pretty low when you just have to log on and stuff. Although there are other. I mean, I've been hearing about this one we mentioned on the show a few weeks ago about a songwriting scam that happens on Instagram and Facebook, or probably others as well, maybe TikTok for sure, where someone posts said my kid's having a birthday and I'd like to commission a songwriter to write an original song for them, and then they go back and forth on the details. What's the kid's name? What are their likes? What are their hobbies? Whatever. What sort of things they like and all that sort of stuff. And then And then when it comes to the money, things get a little fishy, and I can't pay this way, I have to pay that way, and then my assistant made a check for too much. Can you refund me the difference? And as soon as you refund the difference, they ghost you, right? Mm-hmm. And so there are online ones like that too. But,
definitely, like someone tried to do that to me, but like my mom was in charge and still is pretty much in charge of my like singing Instagram, and it was like, could you sing happy birthday and say a message? And then like after the payment part, my parents were like, this is not a real check. And like, we had to block them, but it was an interesting experience.
We learned, and you lose a lot of money, so hopefully. Some of those scams seem like they're more effort than actually just getting a job.
You'd think, like they seem like a lot of back and forth and a lot of
This person put a lot of effort into it. They made a whole fake profile and like they tried to fake a check. I was like, it was interesting. It was really interesting. There was like certain details where you're like, that's great. Wrong bank, but great.
My goodness.
I mean, if it was like $100,000, you go, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it works. If it was a couple $100 or something, No, but it's good that it's good that you've got your parents, guiding you in this and backing you up on that. But it's also interesting. You said this one was free, so it's kind of like, what do you got to lose, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. And it sounds like you've teamed up with some really genuine people. So how about the new songs that you've written since this one? How's the songwriting process going between you guys? Is there a lot of guidance from them, or are you putting a strong foot forward and saying, I want to write about this?
Like pretty much the process when I showed them just like a lot of songs I was listening to, and then we discussed like certain elements that I really liked from each song, and then it was like the topic of the song. So like I have one coming out in a month or so ish, but it's like about anxiety or like social anxiety that I didn't know I had at the time. But so it was just like I kind of just told them like the vibe I was going for, and then we started with like kind of like a melody on the piano and like some chords, and from there it was just like starting writing what made sense, what didn't make sense. And then it was like one thing I found really fun was like, I guess, matching the syllables in each line. Mm-hmm. And then like when we were doing the next verse, it was like how many syllables here, how many syllables there, what words end like somewhat similar so that it will sound like cohesive as it goes on. But it was just like, it was a lot of stuff I learned. And then I was like watching them cut the vocals and everything, and that was really fun. But for the songwriting, I flew out to Vancouver for like the second time ever. And that was really cool. It was like we wrote 2 songs in like a week, less than a week. I'm not even sure.
Wow. What a great experience.
Yeah, it was a lot of guidance, but it was like really helpful. And I hadn't really tried songwriting before then either. Because like the first time I recorded, which was like my first time in Vancouver, after that, it was like I learned how to use GarageBand and like build harmonies and stuff. So then going back was like songwriting. So I've like tried it a little bit. And then at school for me, like I'm in a music program at school. So like we have one class is choir, the other class is like music for creating. We get to like work with other music students. So some of our assignments have been like composition. So we get to like write and then create our own melodies and everything. And then sometimes we're making like leitmotifs and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's interesting that you load up GarageBand and you're working on harmonies, because of your choir background, right? Choir is all about the harmonies, and there are like veteran singer-songwriters out there, folk singers that have done their guitar and their single vocal for many years. You ask them to do a harmony, it's a challenge for them, right? Because like you have
totally different skill.
It's a totally different skill set, right? Like you've done the lead vocal all your whole life. And then you try to write harmonies, and writing harmonies is not necessarily an easy thing to do. Like that takes, and it takes a bit of finesse and a little bit of practice and a lot of failing before you get
Yeah.
it right.
Like sometimes if I'm just like really stumped, I'll be like, okay, that didn't work. But if I just add another random one and another one and another one, it sounds intentional enough. Or it just like sounds very,
yes.
or
Yeah.
we like to call it like crunchy, I guess, where the notes are like right beside each other.
Yep,
So
Mm.
those are like my favorite to do in choir. And then if I'm like really stuck with trying to figure something out, I'm like, I'll just add this and this and this and this. I'm like, good enough. It sounds like it's supposed to sound like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
that's what's ever in your brain too. If that's what you're going for, then that's what you're going for, right? So you get an original sound. It's so cool.
Yeah. That I mean, I've come to this realization actually not too long ago, actually, but it's something that I heard or something like that kind of prompted this thought in my brain that everything we do musically, songwriting, performance, whatever, is essentially translating what's in our heads out into the world, right? And there are various tools, and all the things that we talk about on the show are tools and things and recording techniques and songwriting techniques and all these sorts of things. They're all aids in trying to get the output to reflect more accurately what it is that's in your head, right? And you do get better at it as you practice it over and over again. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I heard, and you know how to, and you develop the skills to know how to get there easier and faster than fumbling about and just trying stuff randomly until you happen to land on something that's kind of close. Okay, right? Like you do things intentionally for a long time before you do it by accident, and then you do it by intention again. You do it by accident until you learn it enough to do it intentionally.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that is so cool. What an amazing experience that came from just answering an Instagram ad.
Yeah, it was
Mhm.
really crazy. It's been really crazy. It hasn't like quite clicked in yet. It still feels very weird. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, things are happening. Things are still happening. I didn't like think it through before I did it. So I was like, didn't think there was an option of going further than just an audition anyways.
Yeah, because when you went into this thing, it was as Sydney as a singer. That was your role, right? A singer. You didn't really contemplate the possibility that it could turn into a songwriting thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't think of anything past like just singing. And then I didn't even think of like performing. I was like, and now I'm kind of like, ooh, you have lots of anxiety with that, but it's okay. It's getting better.
Yeah, for sure. Or did you start with like open mics and things like that? Or how did you start the performing?
School performances, lots
Okay.
of choir, and then like small ensembles have really helped with that. And then some of it's just like, I guess, working in small ensembles and then having us all like singing different parts. It's kind of helped with like actually letting people hear me sing instead of just like being like, nope, not singing. No. It's gotten better through that. And then like once again, like I guess doing like just the performances helps with being on stage because I used to get really, really red. And it's like I've always done recitals. I get really red. Like there's videos of like recitals. Even if I'm just playing the piano, it's like I start off fine and then you can see like my face turn really red. And I'm like not breathing while doing it. There's like a video of me singing. It's like my face is red and you can tell I just didn't breathe. I was just like got through it and then I was like running off stage. And like even for like the audition, it was like introduce yourself, and then like at the end be like thanks, and again my name's blah 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 blah. I was like panicked. I was like hi, I'm singing blah, blah, blah. And then I was like okay bye, and then I just like left. I was like oops.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's gotten better to the point where I can do it. Like it's still just as stressful. It's just like I can get through it now instead of like freaking out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That Inner Game of Music book, you might want to read that. That'll really help, actually.
Well, and that's what they say about, we're talking about the top of the flow state. The only way you get there is by putting in the hard work and putting in the practice and just doing it over and over again. And yeah, you're gonna fail the first umpteen times, right? And it's not going to be as great. But the really rewarding thing is when if you keep at it, and then like you say, you look back to a performance a few years ago, and it's like, man, I was bad then. Now I'm so much better.
Yeah.
and that's really the great thing, right?
But one of the great things, I don't know if it's great, I think it's a great thing about music, is that no matter how good you get, you're never as good as you want to be.
Mm.
It's always, I just need to get, which is good. It's not something you can, I guess maybe the class, I'm sure there's people who've mastered it. I think everyone works. In fact, I remember hearing about Celine Dion, who always worked with a vocal coach.
Yeah.
Like even when she was doing these, I think down in Las Vegas, she was still working with a vocal coach. And, how many cajillion shows has she done?
Yeah. I recently heard something about Joe Satriani, who's like the virtuoso guitarist among virtuoso guitarists, right? And, before every show, he practices his stuff for like an hour or 2 hours. Even though these are his songs, he wrote them, he knows them inside and out, but he's still, trying to find those little tiny details that could just be a little bit better.
Yeah.
and all constantly trying to improve the thing. And that to me is the most amazing thing about songwriting, is that, no matter how long you've been songwriting, there's always something to learn.
Oh yeah.
There's always something to try out. A new technique you haven't heard of, like no one's done it all. So there's lots and lots to explore.
And before we wrap, I want to mention that Sydney said something which is so true. We so often overthink things and overworry things. Like you just answered an ad and you sang and you went, okay, that's it. Like you said, you never even thought about, what it could lead to. It was just, you just sort of did it. And I think there's something to be said about just sort of doing things and not stressing about what might happen. I mean, within reason, but with this kind of thing, that it makes sense to, just go up to an open mic and do it. You're not going to wind up in jail probably. So, just do these things and not worry about it. But it's so hard to get out of your head. Well, I guess that's the whole inner game of music thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Well, I think I hear the band.
I think we're hearing the man. So that's the time we have on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to Sydney. Great to have you on the show. And where can our listeners find out more about you? Where should they go to visit you?
Instagram, Spotify. It's all or Instagram's Sydney Official Music, I think. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. But it's there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll certainly link to it. We'll link to it from our website, songtalk.ca. We'll find out what it is for sure. And that's great. Okay. And we want to hear from you too. So please send your comments on Facebook or Instagram to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email at feedback@songtalk.ca. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes. And subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page on the website, like those, like the book Phil mentioned up at the top. And please visit us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. Whether you're in Toronto for our in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups, it's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil
at philemery.ca.
And Sydney thinks her Instagram is Sydney Music Official.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so be sure to follow her there. And be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on writing. Hello.
Good night. Or good day, depending on when you're listening to us.